Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of In the Studio with Darius Fentress. I'm so grateful for the support that you guys have been giving this channel and this platform. I couldn't do this without you. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch or to listen. And do me a favor, tell somebody else about this platform if you enjoy it. Go on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, that notification button, so you know every time that I post new content. You can find me on all the audio podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all the other ones. So thank you again for taking the time to spend your day or spend a few minutes, whatever it is, with me, just talking about life, talking about challenges that we may have in this music industry, talking about production and recording and mixing and all the things pertaining to music. And I'm just so thankful again for everybody that comes and lends their expertise. All the guests that I've had have been amazing. I'm so blessed to have so many friends in this industry who have just said yes when the ask came. So I'm so grateful again, and go like and subscribe this channel. Hit me up on Instagram too, guys. You can find me at Darius Fentress on Instagram and Facebook. I want to engage with you guys. I want to talk about more of the topics that we cover on this channel. If you have questions, feel free to hit me up. I would love to have dialogue with you. If there's ideas that you want for the show, if you have questions that you want me to answer, please hit me up and I would love to address that on the show. If you have guests that you want me to talk to, let me know. You know, I'm thankful for this time that we're in with social media. You know, we could reach out to anybody, and what's the worst that could happen? They could say no, or they could say yes, which has been the case for me for this whole time doing this. There's been way more yeses than nos, and I'm very thankful for that. Today, guys, it's just going to be me talking. You know, every once in a while, I like to come on here and just talk, let you guys know what's on my mind, what I've been thinking about, you know, whether it's something pertaining to actual music production or mixing or playing, whatever it is. You know, sometimes that'll be the case. And sometimes I just want to talk about life. I want to talk about kind of the challenges and the obstacles that I've had to overcome as a creative. I've been doing this for a long time in this industry. So, you know, I have some wisdom. You know, I love to be able to give back and to just let people in on my life and let people in on the processes that I've taken to get to where I am today. Trust me, I have a long way to go. I have a lot of goals. I got dreams that, you know, I still want to achieve while I'm here on this earth. Ultimately, I want to be in God's will, his plan, his purpose for my life. And right now in this season, this podcast is that, which I never thought that I would be in, because, you know, I'm not a talker like that. For me to get to sit here and talk to you guys is something that I've never done in my life. Now, I have a lot of great relationships with people, and we have great in-depth conversations, but I'm not one to open up myself a lot to people, especially people I may not know. But you guys are all family. It's all love here, and I want to give everything that I have to be able to help somebody out. And guys, I tell you, the feedback that you have been giving throughout this whole journey has blown my mind. You know, from just reacting to the guests that I have, we talking about, you know, just our life and what God has blessed us to be able to do. But seeing how that has been a blessing to people has really just made my heart feel really good. It helps me to know that everything that God is doing in my life is for a purpose, and that nothing is wasted. That's something my wife says a lot. Nothing is wasted. So I'm I'm blown away by the feedback and just the impact that you guys say that I've had on your life. Trust me, right now, you guys are impacting me just the same. So yeah, so we're gonna just talk about something that I had on my mind last few days. I had a situation a couple weeks ago where I was called in for a recording session to engineer. It was very last minute, so it was a Friday where I was called, and then the session was going to be on Saturday, and the session was going to be at a studio that I've never worked in as an engineer before. I'd been there one time tracking percussion for an album a few years ago, but I never actually sat in the seat of the engineer in that particular studio. So we had to go to the studio on that Friday to just kind of check things out so I could be prepared for the next day. Got there, great facility. I mean, you talk about like one of those nice throwback, just amazing control room, really nice size live room. And they had a new console in there. It's an old console, but it was new to them. And, a lot of outboard gear, and, it's different than what a lot of people are used to for their home studios now. It was a full scale recording studio, and the room just sounds amazing. So I got there and talked to the studio manager, who's not an engineer, but he is an amazing singer and vocalist and vocal producer, so he knows the studio, which was very helpful for me to have somebody assist in that manner. Made things go a lot smoother. But we were running into some challenges for some patching, and we were trying to figure out some stuff. We weren't getting the signal flow just right, and it took some time. It took some calling some other engineers who worked in that room, calling some other engineers who just have a general knowledge of signal flow that could just help us out in the moment. We were able to figure it out. And so I got the session ready for the next day. Full band session, drums, bass, 2 guitars, a scratch vocal, and we were cutting like 3 songs. So long story short, the next day, everybody came in, we got sounds up, we got things rolling, and we were successful in getting things done that need to be done. And I just wanted to talk to you guys about how in situations where you may be unfamiliar with, if it's a new environment, if you're going in with new people you've never worked with, that can be a challenging situation sometimes. And it runs into an issue that I have dealt with for a long time, in different situations and at different levels, and that's imposter syndrome. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard of that term before, but imposter syndrome is basically, it's a cognitive mental state where you feel inadequate to do what you know you can do, but at that moment you don't feel like you're up to the par or that you're good enough to do your job in this particular environment. It's almost like feeling like you're a fraud. And there's feelings of, man, I just hope these people don't find me out and they realize, oh, I'm not as good as they think I am. Or, if I mess up, are they gonna fire me? And it's just a lot of feelings of inadequacy with imposter syndrome. And I've dealt with this from time to time over my life and career. And I can remember one time in particular, early on in my career, when I first, in fact, it was the very first rehearsal that I had with Fred Hammond and RFC. I was a young man. I was 19 years old. I was very inexperienced when it came to high level professional settings. But I came into that rehearsal feeling pretty inadequate, not knowing what I was able to offer, or if I was even really good enough to be in the room, or if people were thinking he's only in here because that's Fred's nephew. Those things are very real. But, looking back, although those feelings were very real for me at that time, I think just trusting in the giftings that God has given me, and trusting that I prepared right, that I was ready for the moment, helped get me through. And then I felt more comfortable as I see other people getting comfortable with me. Now, I think that with imposter syndrome, there's a lot of, you could talk yourself down or speak some untruths to yourself. So I can remember maybe thinking things that, man, I don't know if I'm good enough. But the truth and reality of the situation is that God would have never put me into that room if I wasn't good enough, if I wasn't ready. Now, God has given all of us a measure of giftings and talents. It's a full spectrum of them. Everybody has something that they are good at or naturally gifted for. And we have to steward that gift by training and by practicing. Like, okay, for me as a musician, I have a natural talent. But if I don't steward that gift by practicing my craft and spending time honing my craft and making sure that I am always ready, then I'm misusing that gift. And then you could go into situations where you are not ready and you could be exposed. But that's a little bit different than the imposter syndrome. Like, I know that I've come across several instances in my life, different opportunities, and it's kind of like levels. I think every time God is kind of like showing me different levels of life, that thought of imposter syndrome kind of creeps in, wondering like, I wonder if I'm good enough to be here. I hope they don't find out that I'm a fraud, but I'm not really a fraud. It's just that's the lies that's telling me. But it's a real thing. It's a real emotion that we have to overcome in order to step into whatever the new purpose is and plan that God has had in our life for that moment. And another time I can recall of having imposter syndrome was I was doing a session with a friend of mine, a very successful and well-known music producer in the R&B pop world, called me in to engineer a session for an artist that he had. Now, this artist was not famous. They were trying to make it themselves, but the cachet of working with this producer was new for me. Although I've worked for and worked with a lot of mainstream producers throughout my whole career, for some reason, I think because it was in a different genre than I had been used to. It was really like, I'm used to one sound over here, but over here they're kind of doing things a little bit different, more cutting edge, more mainstream, and I wasn't confident in my skills from the standpoint like thinking that I wasn't good enough. But so I got into that situation, and it was a good session, but I think I was in my head the whole time just trying not to mess up. That, I don't know, it could have been better. I could have, I don't know, it could have been better. I'll just leave it like that. But it was that fear of I want to do this and I don't want to mess up. And if I mess up, they're going to find out that I'm a fraud. And then when they find out I'm a fraud, they're going to tell everybody that I'm not going to have any opportunities. And that's a lie from the enemy that was coming into my head. And that's something I have had to overcome and still overcoming in different ways, because again, I have dreams and aspirations to do things on a very large scale. And I believe every new height or every new door that I walk through, it's going to be scary because it's going to be new people. It's going to be higher stakes. It's going to be, more eyes, whatever the case is. But I have to be confident in who I am, who God has called me to be, and in the skills that I have, the natural raw talent and the practiced skill that I put into what I do. And that's something I want to encourage everyone out there to do is to make sure that you are honing your craft. Make sure that you are practicing and using your gifts in a way that's going to make you better. And be around people that are going to push you to be better. I went through, and I've talked about this before on this platform, where I went through a time where I was really unsure of myself. It was a wilderness time, really, that God was taking me through, helping me to understand my true identity, who I am in Him, and being confident in that in my work, being confident in that in my relationships with my family, my wife, everything. I was really relearning who I am. So, going through this wilderness time, there was a lot of emotional back and forth, just wondering like, man, am I really good at what I do? I don't know. And I think a lot of times we measure opportunities based on if we're good or not. We think if I'm really good at what I do, then I should always have opportunities, which is not the case. It's not the case at all. There are so many talented people in the world who don't have opportunities for a lot of different reasons. But in that time for me, I had to really dig deep to not look at the opportunity as the measuring point for how good I am. So that's it. When that happens, when I would do that, then I wouldn't take chances, because I believe there is a level of risk that you have to take in order to get those opportunities. You got to put yourself out there. You've got to trust and bet on yourself. I've said that before on another episode. You've got to really trust in the things that God has given you and just take the leap. And I struggled with that for a long time. But even like in this season right now of stepping out to do this podcast, there's so many other podcasters that do an amazing job. They have amazing platforms that are funny or they're informative. Their production values are amazing. They got thousands and hundreds of thousands of followers on social media. Whatever it is, stepping into this was hard because I wasn't sure if I would be relevant. But one thing that I've seen is that even if one or two people are impacted by what I'm doing, it's worth it. And I have to celebrate the growth, even if it is going at a slower pace than what we deem in this culture as being successful. Because I believe the thought is, if you do something, it should work right away. if I put this podcast out, I should immediately have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's the thought, because a lot of different things in this culture is presented like that. It's like an overnight success story or culture that we're in, and we don't really see the grind that everybody has to go through. I don't care if it looks like somebody just blew up overnight. That's usually not the case. There's some gestation that has to happen. There's some growth that has to happen. They have to be like in a woman's womb when they're pregnant. There's a 9 months where that baby has to grow and to develop, and then it's delivered into the world. Well, it's sort of like that for success. And you can't predict the time either. There's a lot of things that I thought would work a lot faster than they did in my life. But there's some things that just took a little bit longer. And being okay with that, or here's the thing I heard before. I can't remember who I'm quoting this from, but they said, why do we have the need to know everything? Like, why is it so important to have to know when something is going to happen, or how long it's going to take, or even why you have to go through certain things? Like, why do we have the need to have to know that? And there are probably a lot of different reasons, but I think that I'm just coming to a point in my life where I want to trust God fully. Like, however long it takes, I want to be obedient in the now. And in this season of my life, he's given me this platform to talk to you guys, to have an amazing guest on to talk about their life and their successes and their passions and their process, to be able to give that to whoever is going to listen, whoever's going to watch, and let that be a testimony to encourage them that they could keep going, that they could keep pushing, that they could keep grinding, and know that, yes, if you keep doing it, there will be some success from that. There will be a harvest if you plant the seed, if you water the seed. And so that's kind of been the process of my life, just getting to these levels, getting to these next phases. I'll say it like that, next phases in my life. And when I get there, I may have some trepidation, or that imposter syndrome may come in. Like, man, I don't know if I'm good enough to do this. But I find myself kind of just jumping into it, and it really just works out. And it really becomes natural, or I was meant for that time, meant for that moment kind of thing, So whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that God has given you a passion for, trust that he is going to help you to do that very thing that he's given to you. But you have to steward it, and you have to water it. You have to care for it. You got to practice. If your thing is music, if you're an instrumentalist, you got to practice. And I'm talking to myself. As a professional musician, sometimes when especially if you're like touring or you're always playing, it's kind of hard to carve out that time to actually practice, because you're always doing it. But it's important. The other skills that I have, I'm an audio engineer. I got to practice. I have to find ways to get better all the time, because technology is changing all the time. The sound is changing all the time. So I have to be up on that so I can stay relevant, and so I can really honor God with my gift. So that's really important. But just know, if you get into situations where you're in new environments, or you come to a new gig, or you're a new job, and you get that feeling that, oh man, I hope people don't find me out that I'm a fraud. Just just stop and tell yourself, I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to be here. And that doesn't mean that you have to know everything. That doesn't mean that you have to do everything right. But just know you are meant for that place, for that moment, because it's God's gift to you. And stay encouraged. Do that thing. If you got that, if you want to start a podcast, do it. I tell people all the time, that I may have conversations with who are very passionate about something. I tell them, man, you ever thought about doing a podcast about that? And most of the time people are like, no, I never really thought about it. But that's really what podcasts are good at. You could just have expertise in one specific thing. It's the best way to tell people about how you do that thing. And that's why comparison is so dangerous, because there could be thousands of people that do that same thing, but they don't do it like you. And that's a lesson that I've had to learn, and I'm still learning. Tons of people out here doing this very thing, looking at a camera and talking. But nobody does it like me. I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I'm just saying, like, I'm okay with being myself and being unique and not worrying about what other people or how other people do it. Now, I want to be excellent. And so if I see somebody doing something that could be helpful for me, yeah, I'm going to take processes, or take like the way they record or whatever it is. I could take that, but I'm not trying to be them. I'm still being me. And that is what will kill imposter syndrome, is just being you, because nobody else can be you. You're the only one who can be you. And so when you walk into those new environments, when you walk into those new opportunities, just say to yourself, I'm here and I'm ready to do this thing. So y'all, that's something that's been on my mind for a while. And, I would love your feedback on this. Tell me about some times that you guys have had to deal with imposter syndrome. Tell me about how you handled it, and if you're still struggling with it, because at the end of the day, I want us to help one another. In this community that we're building here in the studio, I want us to have a community that's going to hold people up and encourage one another, and really affirm each other in our uniqueness. So yeah, let me know. Comment on YouTube. Message me on Instagram or Facebook. Let me know how you handle imposter syndrome, because I believe it's something that we all have had to deal with at some point. So yeah, I would love to talk to you guys about that. And again, guys, thank you so much for coming in and spending time with me here in the studio. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, please hit that button. Smash that like button, that notification button. I want to grow this thing, guys, and it is growing. The channel is growing, and I'm so grateful. I'm not worried about how fast or how slow or whatever. I'm just thankful that there are people who are coming into this community and being blessed. So please share it, tell somebody about it, and I'm going to continue to bring you guys amazing content, amazing guests. I got some great guests lined up. So yeah, let's keep doing this. Let's keep growing. Let's keep being better. let's keep lifting ourselves in our craft up, and let's help each other. Let's lift each other up, and let's just be the best people, the best individuals that we could be, and best community that we could be for one another. To go out into this world and just and live a life that's going to be fulfilling. And I'm thankful for you guys. And until next time, y'all, peace.